Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of November 24th, 2014. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question, character animation, or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@KennyRoy.com. I go through all the questions, I answer the ones I think will help the most people. No such thing as a stupid question, of course, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. I'm sitting down right now. It's been a long day, and I need to just rest my dogs. My dogs are barking. So here we are. So please forgive me for sitting down. Try to get my popper stopper a little bit more out of the way. I don't think you guys really mind that, do you? I hope not. Okay. So, man, CTN was last weekend. I might do a little written roundup of things, but for the most part, saw a lot of cool sessions, a lot of good talks by some amazing people. Met a lot of people. Good to meet you, all the people who walked right up to me and said, "Hi, Kenny," and introduced yourself, and we talked. It was really good to meet you. And man, it's always very super inspiring. But I'll say, something very interesting happened this time at CTN. I felt more than any other time that I've gone that the process by which all this animation is being done, I guess on a studio level, the workflow is kind of getting to me. And specifically, I'm a little bit afraid of how much people are not practicing like they want to play. If you've ever played any sports, you know that you want to practice, you want to train the way you want to play. All right? So if you slack around in practice, or if you're not, going full speed, or if you're not practicing, let's say you're playing basketball, if you never practice dribbling while running as fast as you can, then there's going to be a fast break in a game, and you're gonna lose the ball because you haven't practiced that. It's the same thing with animation, and responding specifically to one talk I saw for the Academy Award-winning short, Mr. Hublot, I was just shocked at how much it seemed like workflow was kind of out the window. Because now listen, I'm not, the whole story about rocks and glass houses, applies here. And I know I'm not one to talk because Little Painter did take so long, but it took them 3 years, and they were working on it the entire time, and there was just it just seemed like there was so much waste in there. Now, the justification for it, and you could say, well, they won the Oscar, Mr. Smarty Pants, so and you've never won an Oscar, so what are you talking about? The justification, and it was funny because I was sitting with Mike, who's working on our feature film here with me right now, and Mike is all about efficiency. You could say, yeah, well, they won the Oscar, but one thing that Mike mentioned this, and we talked about this at length, was the only reason that it's done this way is because people do it this way, and then the ones that are rewarded by awards like Oscars and stuff like that come back and they tell their story to the rest of us, and it's survivorship bias. If you know what that is, basically, long story short, the people who are successful at something are in general not any more qualified to give you advice on how to accomplish something. Just because anything that's extremely difficult, that takes a lot of time and effort and a little bit of luck, there's not going to be much advice that they can kind of like glean that actually was their ticket to success. Like, for instance, when like Taylor Swift stands up on a stage and says, like, you know what you need to do? Just need to always follow your dream and always be true to yourself. Well, that's not actually good advice, because a lot of people who won't ever be singers, and maybe who are incredible singers, but will just never meet the right person who, you know, will give them a record deal, or they're just a little bit too old to get, you know, signed. You know, maybe 10 years ago they could have been like a hot new act, but like they've passed their marketability age, and they might be 10 times as good a singer as they were 10 years ago even, but like, you know, don't do anything except follow your heart. That's not actually great advice, is it? Because again, what if you have a good job and you know, you're not miserable doing it? Hopefully, I mean, you're not trying to get out of a situation like that, but let's say you have a good job and a family you're supporting. Should you just quit it and follow your dreams? I mean, that might be putting a lot of people's lives in direct line of fire. Anyway, so I guess what I'm just saying is that when we saw the talk by the guys that made Mr. Hublot, which is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but then they said things like that they made hundreds of drawings that were color studies. I just turned to Mike and I said, like, man, you could do 100 color studies in Maya in an afternoon, right? You could have every single possible like color of the rainbow in there in Maya, and yeah, it's you know, obviously, like, the best artists in the world know what they want before they can even see it, and that's what being visionary means. But sort of the power of the tools that we have at our fingertips should enable people to cut certain wasteful parts of the process out of it. So anyway, like right when they said that, I was like, man, if they hadn't won the Oscar and a person or a group of people or a company or whatever won the Oscar and their film, you know, was equally as beautiful, and they said, well, what we wanted to do was we didn't want to, you know, waste too much time like drawing, you know, our sort of like our color studies, because that takes a ton of time, and frankly, you know, none of us on this team were good enough to, you know, good enough artists to draw this thing. We just jumped into Maya and, you know, placed some colored lights and, you know, spent, you know, a good week instead of, you know, the 6 months that it would take to do color studies of every single shot. We took about a week, and we went through hundreds of iterations, and you know, we came up with the color that you see in the film. If someone would finally, you know, stick up for more efficient workflows over being proud of the fact that you're suffering as an artist for your artwork, then workflow would be a lot more avant-garde and sexy. Anyway, so I don't know. We're hoping to do big things with this film. I'm not sure if we're going to get invited to talk about it like at CTN or anything like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that you know, workflow is. I've been thinking lately that hopefully what is going to happen is that, you know, workflow is going to be a little sexier, and we're going to get a little bit of, you know, a little bit of headway on making it so that people understand and agree that workflow is absolutely essential. But you know, it's a fundamental issue that we're talking about. It's a fundamental shift in thinking, and like the conversation needs to change so that we're all kind of talking, you know, using the same terms and sort of discussing it the same way. Otherwise, I mean, and that was sort of like directing and sort of like look development that, that where that waste was happening. But, it's the same thing. We see the same thing at CTN in terms of like animation workflows. We see people like say like, I did like, a couple different versions of this, and then the director didn't like it. And so I went to my office and I closed the door, and then, I just deleted everything and started totally over with this new idea. And it took a lot longer, but the end result was a lot better. And listen, that's a great story, and if you are working on a $100 million film, that's great. I think that people should be a little bit more interested in learning how to edit their work, no matter how far away it is from what the director is asking for, where it needs to be, editing it quickly into shape and still getting the same result. So anyway, I didn't mean to go on a workflow rant. It was just kind of like one thing that I saw. Let's jump into the question. It's a quickie. It's good that it's a quickie, because I didn't realize I was going to be speaking for 10 minutes on this one thing. But let's check out the question. Great question. Thank you for sending that one in. This is a simple question to answer. It's technical, and for that reason I can kind of just like say yes or no. So no, I would not. I would not use the Trax editor. The Trax editor is sort of like a lo-fi version of like motion editing. Some of the capabilities that you have in programs that are meant for motion capture editing, like Motion Builder, etc. It's nice when you have everything completely set up from scratch to be used in the Trax editor. You have all of like your relative positions set, and you're basically mixing clips and cycles and layers and stuff like that. I would not put a clip into the Trax editor and then scale it. I would use the scaling tools that they have in Maya, which are pretty nice. So here is like the male-female walks scene. I think you guys have seen this. It's a 20 frame walk cycle. Basically, the best tool for scaling, I think, in the graph editor is actually this region tool. Basically what it allows you to do is you just select the keys you want, and you just move this down like this, and it scales time. I used to like the retime tool, but the retime tool requires you to place your handles, and it's not as good because here, if you add a retime marker, you can add them like basically anywhere, and they don't snap as well to keyframes as the scale region tool. So I like the region tool just a lot better for that reason. And also you can move it and it snaps as well. Don't forget to snap it, in one direction or another if you're going to try to retime. So just that region tool is pretty nice for that. But I also want to point out another thing, which is a huge problem that happens when people scale their animation. What I've noticed is that there is people like forget that you can't scale gravity. Okay, and what does that mean? So if you have a bouncing ball, okay, and it's on like a parabolic arc, right? So it slows in at the top and then slows out, okay? If you scale the timing of this, then you are breaking gravity. Because if something gets this high, no matter what, it will always take the same amount of time to get back down to Earth, okay? So you can't just take out frames from this. You can't just speed this up, okay? So in anything that is in free fall, anything that is in the air, if you scale the time, you have to scale the y-arc, the value of the y-arc, Okay, and this is why, for instance, or by the way, or you can't touch the Y arc. Okay, and here's what happens. Whenever you see footage, whenever you see like in a movie or whatever, when the character is supposed to be like running at super speed, and it looks like crap. The reason why it looks like crap is because is for this reason. Is because the Y arc, the footage has obviously been sped up and the gravity has been changed. Okay, it's particularly bad when you have like stairs. Okay, and you have like your character standing up here, and they're like, "I gotta go," and then they're like super speed, and they go like, but super fast. Right? They go pew. Watch. Pew, down like that, right? And the reason is because if he was moving super fast, he would push off right here and he would fly out like this. Okay? And he wouldn't hit the ground until the same time if you, let's say this is a staircase and there's like ground right here. Okay? Coming towards us is like a 3D staircase, right? See what I'm trying to draw here? Crying out loud. Okay. If you dropped a brick from right here, and the time it takes, you drop it, boom, and then it lands right here. The time it takes for that to drop is the exact same time it takes for him when he flies off this way to eventually hit the ground. He's going to hit the ground like way over here. Right? That's what it's going to look like. All right? It's not going to be, all right, I got to go. And then as he runs, he's like hitting every single step. You see that difference? So the difference is subtle, but it applies to every single piece of animation. When we talk about animating weight in our character, the best way that you can telegraph to the audience the weight of a character is how much their body is resisting the effect of gravity. And what is the effect of gravity? It's pulling them down. So if they're really heavy, then it takes a long time for them to, even when they plant their foot like a kaiju, from Pacific Rim, even when they plant their foot, their body still is traveling down. It's traveling down almost at free fall speed. Okay? Right? So anyway, I just wanted to point this out. Whenever I hear about people scaling animation, if you're scaling your animation drastically, or not even drastically, just a considerable amount, then you are almost certainly breaking gravity, and your weight needs to be almost completely redone. All right. So either you need to change the Y value of your the arc of your Y value, because in a shorter amount of time, okay, if I take this and I put this right here, in a shorter amount of time, it can only get that high. Okay? It can't get that high and come back down because gravity doesn't speed up when time speed up. Gravity is the same. Okay? So that's what you have to do. If you're doing like a walk cycle, for instance, right? You need to fix the Y arc. If they're walking faster, they're going to be a lot more steady in Y. Just the way it works. Or you don't touch. It's hands off the Y. Like in this example, if it's free fall, all right, and this character is like, leaping out this way, then you have to keep that Y arc the same as if he jumped off this way and landed on the ground. All right? And what's going to happen is he's not going to follow this thing and then run away like they do in like Vampire Diaries, like those shows where there's like no budget for the VFX. He's going to go pew, and he's going to fly out like this. All right? Anyway, so I wanted to point that out because, Someone says scaling animation or speed up animation. Just alarm bells start going off for me, okay? It was a great question, though. And I'm sorry I ranted for so long. But talking to some of the people I met at the conference about the MOOC and everything, just really beginning to feel like this is actually overdue. That there should have been a change a long time ago. So, help me out. Spread the word about the MOOC, okay? Keep following me if you're not already on Facebook and Twitter, okay, guys? All right. Thanks for that question. You know where to send them, right? Webmaster@kennyroy.com. Looking forward to seeing your questions. Remember, I give you 2 days to your subscription. Every single question you send in, there's no limit to how many you can send in. I even like to look at your Maya files, so it's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun. I am Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.